Welcome to Cellmates.
Welcome.
Welcome, Kate Phillips.
Welcome, Dick Ward.
Thank you. This is a podcast where we take two animated movies and kind of dissect them, kind of throw a Venn diagram over them and see what makes them tick. Often these movies are Disney.
Not always.
Often they are musicals.
Not always.
And often they are good.
Not always.
Kate?
Yeah?
I've noticed that we both have drinks in front of us.
We sure do.
This is very usual for the podcast.
It is a tradition, yes.
So our drinks...
We pair movies and we pair drinks.
Our drinks tend to have something to do with what we watched.
Mm-hmm.
But right now...
See if you can remember.
I'm taking a sip, and it's just whiskey.
It's just whiskey, I feel like, is not being...
It's selling it a little short. But it is not a mixed drink. It is not a beer with a fancy name. So tell me why I just have a glass of whiskey.
Empire Rye, which is our favorite whiskey I think we've ever tasted.
That's true.
From Van Brunt Stillhouse Distillery in Brooklyn.
Yep. They have online ordering. They deliver quick. You should get some.
In New York State.
No.
And this is a small batch whiskey. So it's small batch and like it packs a lot of flavor into just a little sip. Like, we do not mix this with anything. We just drink it neat or like with a rock.
Yeah, it's too good to mix.
And it's so just condensedly good. Mm-hmm. Like, that's all you need. You don't need extra stuff with it. It's just, you sip it and you know what it is and it's great.
Yeah.
So
that's why we're drinking this, is because the things that we watched were a variety of shorts.
Of small batch movies.
Small batch movies that pack a lot of punch. And you don't really need to mix them with anything.
Yeah.
Though we will still be mixing them with things in the final cut at the end of the show.
That is true. So we watched a variety of shorts, 8 of them, in fact, which the runtime does not even add up to one of the 2 movies that we normally do.
Right.
But there's so much great storytelling here, and we wanted to, find a way to use a lot of these. So what we're going to be talking about is the short Hair Love.
Yeah, and Kate, can we actually go back a second? Whoa. What was the impetus? Like, why did we choose to do shorts?
So, one, in general, the world is more exhausting even than usual right now.
Yeah, I feel like every time we do the podcast,
we're like, guys, it's gotten worse.
Oh, man. Like, remember back when it was just the coronavirus?
Just that.
It was just
fine.
that.
Not fine.
Yeah, so now there are massive protests, some riots, we'll say. There's a lot of police brutality, a lot of really horrible things.
There's always been a lot of police brutality.
There's a lot of visible
seeing more
police
of it on the news
brutality
right now.
But there's a big push. The Black Lives Matter movement is like out there like crazy.
More steam than ever before, and more people listening than ever before, which is great.
And there's a big push to like try and support Black-owned businesses, especially because of the coronavirus and because of the protests and because all of these businesses are like struggling right now.
Right.
So it's like, please support these Black-owned businesses. So we said, let's watch some movies with like Black directors or Black writers. That'd be really fun for the show. And what did we find? Wow, who knew?
There are not many,
No.
at least not that are readily available, and certainly not big studio movies. Shout out to director Peter Ramsey, who is a Black creator. He co-directed Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse. He directed Rise of the Guardians, which is a movie we have not seen.
We have not seen that yet.
So he is in the mix, but we thought, well, we've done Spider-Verse recently, and we don't want to just do 2 movies because it's this one guy that we've heard of. So we were thinking about other things, and you start to do the research, and it's very, very unfortunate that there's not more out there.
There are a lot of really interesting, like, sounding things when you search, like, for like black run animation studios, black animation directors and stuff. There's an anime studio in Japan that is black run.
Yeah, I saw that one.
But all of them are kind of like, or all the ones we found anyway, were like studios for hire. So
they're kind of like freelance studios.
So they'll do animation on a movie, but they're not like the animator.
Or a TV show or a commercial.
It's not like their project necessarily.
Yeah. There's not a lot of powerful studios out there that are specifically using black creators to create animated movies.
Yeah, there are prominent black directors in like live action at this point, and prominent black writers and so on, but in animation, just not yet, which was kind of eye-opening.
So, we had both, and I before had seen the short Hair Love, which won the Oscar for animated short this past year, created by Matthew Cherry. He used to be a football player, I learned.
Oh.
He was like a pro football player, and now he directs movies.
That's cool.
Including this. And this is inspired by his personal life with his daughter. And so, we're looking for other things and to pair this with. And we said, recently we've watched all of the Sparkshorts on Disney Plus, which is essentially Pixar's kind of like homegrown. They describe it as like indie short films within this Pixar studio. Like,
yeah, it's interesting. They give them like a small, for Pixar, a small budget. They give them 6 months.
Yeah.
And like, it seems like there's like an audition or pitch process, but it's people that like it's people that stories you might not have heard otherwise. And it's also like, there's some people that aren't animators or aren't directors or aren't writers.
And we should add too that these are people who currently work at Pixar. They're not hiring outside. They're just, this is kind of like an initiative within the company. Like, hey, you want to direct a 7-minute film? Like, do you have a good idea for a 7-minute film? Great. You're a lighting guy? Great.
Yeah.
Like, you're a storyboard artist? Great. Like, come direct this.
One of the guys was like in charge of making fur animate well. Like, that's his whole job, is like working on fur algorithms and stuff. And like he pitched and he got through and he got to direct a short.
Yeah. I think what's also notable about the Sparkshorts are in the history of every animation studio, but particularly Disney Pixar, there's a lot of straight white men directing forever.
Yeah, directing and writing forever, but also directing and writing stories of black people and Native Americans and Chinese princesses and what have you, right?
And to the best of our research ability, it appears that of these 7 Sparkshorts that have been released so far, one is there. I think 2 are white men directed.
Right.
At least one of those, he is gay, and so that's something at least.
And we're saying directed, and I'll be honest, I don't know what the actual involvement of all these people is. Like, I don't know if they all directed or if they all wrote or what, but they were all involved in some way, I think.
In general, the directing and screenplay is all done by this one person that they've selected.
Oh, cool.
Story might be by a few more people.
Someone also have like a story credit because they're helping with it.
Right. And these are very collaborative endeavors too.
Yeah.
So if you have Disney Plus and want even more of information about these, most of them right now even have a little like 4-minute behind the scenes.
Oh my God.
Which is really cool. It's like as long as the short itself, but really cool.
And it's just like a quick little thing, but it really gives you a little bit of insight into the people making it. So,
all right. So, Dick, we got 8 titles to go through.
Whoo, boy, that's going to be 2 minutes each on the cookie timer,
right?
Times 8 titles, plus we'll probably BS between. That's going to be at least 16 minutes, but I'm
about
I'm
as
ready.
much time as it takes to watch all of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to allot 30 seconds per title.
Yeah.
To just do a real, like literally real quick summary, move on to the next title. So what I'm going to do so that we don't just go insane with the cookie timer is I'm going to put, check my math, 8 times a half, like a half a minute, is 4.
4 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm going to put 4 minutes on the cookie timer.
Okay. And Kate, I can't see your screen. You have the notes of who's doing what.
Yeah,
so
I sure do.
When you finish your first one, can you just
I'll toss
yell?
it off to you.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. And like, what we should like yell something every 30 seconds.
I mean,
we
should just switch every 30 seconds.
Great.
Some of these might be shorter descriptions. Some might be longer.
Yeah.
We're going to do our best.
We'll do our best.
Here we go.
All right. Starting with Hair Love. Here I go. Hair Love is about a young girl who is, she's black and she is trying to do her hair all these fancy ways that she sees on YouTube. And she needs help from Dad, but Dad is not good at her hair. And so Dad tries and gets defeated. But he keeps trying and they work together and they do the hair. And then they visit Mom in the hospital who has lost her hair due to cancer. But she's the one in the YouTube videos. And it's so proud. And everyone is really happy. Next, Dick Do Kitbull.
Okay, so there's this cat, and it's adorable and also crazy, like a crazy adorable cat. And it takes up home in this junkyard, and there's a pit bull that kind of is the junkyard dog. But it turns out the pit bull is super abused and might be doing dog fights and crazy stuff like that. And eventually the cat frees the pit bull, and they become best friends.
Ding.
Kate.
Moving on to Pearl. Pearl is a ball of yarn, and she starts working at a super bro-y company, and she's the first female there, or the first ball of yarn. And so she can't fit in at first and is not literally invited to the table for ideas. So then she kind of changes her personality and starts to act more like the bros to get a leg up. But then other balls of yarn start joining the company, and she feels like she's excluding them. So she finds a good mix of I'm going to affirm these people, but still be myself. And okay, sorry, move on. Smash and grab, Dick.
Smash and grab. 2 robots. One's named Smash, one's named Grab. One smashes stuff, one grabs stuff. They are slave robots who are noticing that, or they're worker robots who are noticing that the people that live up in the fancy area have things better than them and aren't tied to one place. So they smash their way out of there, and eventually they become best friend fugitives on the run.
Yeah. All right. Float is about a father and his son who, after he is born, develops the ability to float. And it's super cool. And the dad thinks so too. But then they go outside and neighbors don't think it's super cool. They kind of are staring and they think it's weird. So dad tries to hide that his son can float and tries to keep him grounded. But that's not working well for the son. And so one day at the park, he just stops fighting and lets his son float and be who he is. Yay. Dick.
Kate, let me tell you about Wind or Wind. I still don't remember. There is a boy and his grandmother, and they are kind of scavengers in what I thought at first was space, but it turns out it's a giant pit with crazy weird gravity. And they scavenge parts together for a spaceship to escape. But Grandma realizes that it can only carry one of them, so she sacrifices herself so that her grandson can get out to the normal world. It's beautiful.
She gives him potatoes. Loop is about 2 teenagers at a summer camp, and they go out on a canoe, and one of them is on the autism spectrum, and she cannot communicate verbally, but she has this phone sound loop that she uses to calm herself. And so it's about her and this other canoe guy who's neurotypical trying to figure out how to literally navigate their canoe back to safety when she has an episode and they have to figure out how to communicate. Sorry, go, Out.
Okay, Out is about a guy who is moving out of his current house, and he's moving in I think across the country with his boyfriend or fiance. It's not clear. And he hasn't come out to his parents yet. He gets turned into a dog. He gets body switched with his own dog. And through that, he is able to spy on his mother, see her emotions. And then he finally gets the courage to come out
are done. Shorts are done. Shorts are done. Sorry, I short-changed you on that last one because I went like 3 seconds over, and that just tips the whole thing.
That's okay. Yo, Loop. Oh, you tipped it with Loop?
Oh.
Because it's on a canoe?
They do tip over.
All right, Kate.
Good episode.
Yeah, good episode. This was Selma. No. Let's start talking about shorts. Like, what jumps to your mind first?
So, to me, it's really interesting because watching Sparkshorts and not really knowing anything about it, I'm like, wow, this new content on Disney Plus. Sure, I'll watch this.
Yeah. Like, a Pixar short. I love
feel
Pixar
like
shorts.
It was apparent from the beginning that the voices telling these stories are not the voices who I am used to telling the stories, even of Pixar shorts.
Right.
Right? I think it was Float, the first one we watched, maybe?
I think Loop was the first one we watched.
Oh, interesting. But yeah, just not only, are these stories, so just pulling Float out, right? Like, it's very clear that these characters in this situation come from something real. Like, it's fantastical. Right. This boy floats, but you're like, oh, this is either a child with, like a learning disability, or it might be, an allegory for, oh, my son is gay, and I don't know what to do with that.
And the dad, when he like is ashamed of the boy, or ashamed of himself, or angry at himself, or whoever, in the story, and he screams at his son, I think, why can't you just be normal?
Yeah.
And like, oh man, that came from life.
Yeah.
Like
it has to.
That struck me so hard.
And this family and the director are Filipino, so the characters look Filipino. Like, they're very, it's not just like, random non-white, which I feel like Disney kind of has a tendency to do, like, oh, there's melanin in this person's skin, go us. Like,
this is a white person who we have drawn with some brown.
Right. So it's very clear. And then as we kept watching them and then kept watching those little behind the scenes featurettes, it's like, oh no, Loop, like I don't think she had a direct relation to the director of Loop, but for the part of the female character who's on the spectrum, they hired a voice actor who is on the spectrum and who is nonverbal. And so they used her sounds and her communications to not only, feel like for the research for the story, but also for the actual moments in the story. And that was just super cool. Like, just the attention to real stories is very apparent in these. And I think in shorts too, right? You have an average of 7 minutes to tell a full story, beginning, middle, and end, with hopefully a character or two that they're identifying with. So everything is like super distilled. And
you don't have
clear.
Room to pad anything out. You just got to get the story,
and you just have to be real.
Yeah.
And so I think that's super cool, and that's something that I appreciate about these.
Yeah.
What's salient to you, Dick?
One thing I noticed in all of these was like kind of a I don't want to say like going against the grain, because that's not necessarily it, but I feel like everyone wanted to prove something. Everyone wanted to or maybe like establish their reality as reality.
Do you mean the characters or the directors?
I mean the creators. Okay. Right? Like Float, again, is a great example because it is a very real life story, but with a character that is floating instead of on the spectrum. Loop is a very grounded story, but even stuff like Kit Bull is like, it's addressing something more than just this dog and this cat are friends. It's addressing the abuse of pit bulls, which is pretty bad. I'm not a dog guy, but when you look into like the way some of these dogs are treated, it's horrific.
Just dog fighting in general.
Yeah.
It seems like a no-brainer of a bad idea.
Yeah. And I would say even like, I would say the least the short that I felt was the least like about a thing was Smash and Grab, but that still felt like, because watching it is like, oh, it's two robots that want to escape this thing, but like the more you look at it, the more it's like, oh, they're rebelling against the upper like the literal upper class.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, if we're sweating our ass off down here, why are we not getting rewarded for it? They rebel against it, and they go off and do their own thing. So like all of these have a more than just, I guess, okay, here's what I'm trying to say. All of these are more than just a story. All of these have a reason to be told and a point that they are making, which I think in a larger animated movie with like 10 different writers and stuff, that gets lost.
Yeah. Although I would say Pixar is better than anyone at successfully executing that, even in a full-length movie.
But we've seen Cars. We've seen The Good Dinosaur.
We've seen The Good Dinosaur, right.
Right? Like, there might be points, but they're not overarching necessarily. They're not, you know, and it's, I would assume that it's much harder to do over an hour or an hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
And that's like one of the things one of the issues I have with WALL-E is that it's like we are making 100 different points, and I'm like, whoa, I'm a little lost.
I mean, so a lot of these shorts, we were talking about this earlier, that they, like, a couple of them have dialogue, but not all of them. Like, half of them don't.
I would say
right?
it's like half and half, right?
Kipple, Smash, and Grab don't have dialogue. Float does not.
Right.
Wind does not.
Float has limited dialogue.
Oh, yeah. It like,
Float
why
has
can't you be normal?
Right.
But
Wind/Wind does not have dialogue.
Right.
And Hair Love has limited dialogue.
It only has the YouTube videos
Right.
of the who you find out later to be the mom.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because a lot of these shorts are very WALL-E, or I guess WALL-E, that first act is very much like a short. And I mean, animated shorts have been around, you know, since Walt Disney created Oswald, right? Like,
Right.
But I feel like Pixar, one of their like salient features when they came out is every one of their movies had a short before it, and that's not necessarily a thing when you go to see a Disney movie.
Right. And sometimes that short is really good, and sometimes it's Frozen Christmas Adventure.
That's not Pixar. That's Disney. They just don't know how to do it. They didn't go down the hall and talk to someone.
But it was before a Pixar movie, and it boned me out. Because that was before Coco.
Oh, it was before Coco. You're right.
That hurts so
Yeah,
bad.
that does. That's bad.
To watch that and then see Coco.
Yeah.
I mean, Coco made it all worthwhile, but
a lot of those standard shorts too. Like I'm thinking the lava one with the volcanoes, or like the inner organs thing. Like a lot of them just don't have dialogue because it's easier and cleaner to tell a story just through visual, especially if you only have 7 minutes. And I love that about these. And I love that these two, one thing that I noticed, and I saw this in Pixar people talking about the idea of Sparkshorts, that these are not necessarily made with a kid audience in mind, or made in like this is going to go before an Incredibles movie.
Right.
This is a project for telling a story through animation, and it's not necessarily for our normal demographic. And I think especially, I had one specifically in mind, like Smash and Grab, there's some imagery in it that they don't hit you over the head with, right? Like those two robots start the story tethered to their like train car in such a way that they can never join bodies. They can never give each other a high five.
They can't give a fist bump or a high five.
It's literally like the radius of the tether is designed so that it reminds me of like Hades Town, right? Where the workers can't look at each other and they're separated in that way so that they don't join forces and unionize.
Right. And it's interesting, like, also because the tether it's not a chain that's holding them down. Like, it is that, but it also is their power source.
Right.
So it's like it's an interesting combination.
Right.
Like this job basically is their only source of income. Whereas like all these other people have like these floaty battery balls that they just plug in. And they're free.
Yeah.
So it's
there's privilege in that. And so I feel like a short like this that is catered toward a larger demographic, like kids to adults, might use that imagery a few more times in it. But I like that this one is like, well, they're on tethers. It's not really going to be a big deal, but you're going to notice it, and then we're going to move on. Dick, you were about to say a thing, and I totally derailed our conversation.
I don't remember what it was.
Are there... So, looking at, like... that, like, Hair Love, right? This is a story that is specific... It has to be told by someone who's lived it, right? Otherwise, how would you even come up with the idea for, it's with my family growing up, if my dad wanted to do my hair, which there never was a reason to, but like, it's like putting up in a ponytail,
Fine.
like my hair as a white person is not really difficult to do. And like, I don't have a lot of like texture in my hair, but like, this is something like there's an entirely different market for hair care products.
A whole different hair care routine. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I like the specificity of that, of this is, and it is a larger story, right? It's not just about hair.
Right.
It's about that relationship, and it's about trying to figure out this new dynamic in your family when different people are off doing different things.
A dad doing his best.
Yeah. Which is like extremely universal.
I love a dad doing his best and nothing going right. I love that in a
what
in
other
a film.
I guess, I mean, these are maybe scene shout outs too, but like what else struck you as like, oh, this is a specific moment that tells me that, there's a lived experience here?
I see. Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I think there was like a little moment in each of them, right? Mm-hmm. In Pearl, when the ball of yarn, like, is hanging with the bros, and the other balls of yarn are like being excluded by her, and she realizes that she's participating in the same system that's holding her down. Like, that felt real. That felt like a real experience of someone being like, oh, I am perpetuating this. I can also be the one to end this.
I was really ready to dislike this short.
Pearl?
Based on the like the thumbnail and based on the little description. I'm like, oh, okay, it's like, we can do it, Rosie the Riveter thing that's like a little old now for me. I don't know. Like, you can succeed at a male-dominated business, but I love
90s girl power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Girl boss. But I loved that nuance of it. Yeah. Told, like, it shifted the story in a way where, like you said, like, oh, she has lived this, and it is a female director. And I liked that none of these really went exactly the direction I thought upon, minute one.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
Yeah. I will say Wind is the other one. Did we decide on Wind or Wind?
I think it's Wind. Because they have that tether, the thing on the crank.
They have the tether, but also it's like there's that weird gravity where it's like wind blowing upwards.
But I don't think
Let's
it's
go with
Wind.
Wind.
I think it's Wind.
So Wind has like it just has a really specific like food ritual that the kid and his grandma do, where she ties up like a picnic basket for them in a way that to open it, each of them grabs a bit and pulls it. And then they each pull out their, I guess, baked potato, clink them together and take a bite. And it's a very sweet thing. And you can tell that was like somebody's thing with their mom or their grandma or someone.
Yeah.
And it's those things, those touches that just really like it takes a short where I am watching people. I'm watching a child like fly out and scavenge floating jet planes from the ether. It takes something as ridiculous as that and then just grounds it in a way that, even though I've never had like that exact ritual, like I just go, oh, I know exactly what this relationship is. I know exactly how important, like I have this in my life somewhere.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I felt that same, I felt the tinge of familiarity in that grounding moment in Out, where like, Out is this like fantastical story. The guy and the dog switch places, and there's like a disco dog and cat rainbow narrator. It's great. But when the super Midwestern parents come over and mom's like, I got pizza casserole to help you move. I'm going to put it in the oven. Like, I'm like, oh, I recognize that part of this story. Like I have a Midwestern mom who likes to help. And, you know, looking at all of these, you know, as a collection or as just movies we've seen, it's like, it's so fun to recognize a moment of your experience in a movie where you're like, oh yeah, I like mama's come over and put something in the oven when I'm doing this other thing.
She's trying to be overly helpful.
Yeah.
Which is very nice.
So nice.
Theoretically.
No, it is really nice. Because then you have pizza casserole to eat later.
But it's also like she came over without announcing that she was coming over.
Right.
So
in that case, yeah.
Now I have to hide all of the photos of my boyfriend.
Right.
Because we haven't talked about this yet.
But like how cool then for like, and this is just, you know, you can shout it louder for the people in the back. Representation matters. Like to be able to see those moments.
Good representation.
Yes, good representation. Authentic representation matters. Because, I mean, Wind is, the director was explaining, it's, you know, an immigration parallel story. And I'm sure people who have gone through that, maybe not in the exact same way that his family did it, can recognize elements of that. Just like the piece of casserole.
Yeah.
And we need more of this happening. Like, white people should take a break.
I mean...
we got like 100 years of movies to identify with.
We do, but I would say even more, I just want authentic experiences in movies. Because it's just really good when it happens. And it happens, I think, rarely in larger movies. Because they're written more by a committee. Mm-hmm. But I'll say, like, for me, Coco is a movie where there are moments where I'm like, oh, this is something someone lived. This is someone's true experience. Like, there's a bunch of crazy stuff here, but like, you know, what was it, Miguel like knocks over a picture on the ofrenda, and I'm like, yeah, someone's done that, and I can feel in my gut how much trouble he's about to be in, right? Like when that happens in a feature length movie, it just brings it all home.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. These are good. Is there anything we have not talked about as much?
Yeah, and by the way, this is probably going to be a
call them all out.
Sparkshorter episode.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dick.
Yeah.
Are we I mean, so when we say we're ready for the final cut.
Yeah.
We mean like there's another half of this episode left. Like, I
mean, kind of, yeah.
In a typical episode, it's like a 30-minute long final quote-unquote
We've
segment.
absolutely got more to talk about. But also, like, hey, you're welcome if you're still listening to podcasts right now. You're welcome for a shorter episode. Kate, do you know how behind I am on like all of my normal podcasts?
Yeah.
Like,
no, I go out 2 days a week to volunteer, and that's the only time I listen to podcasts. Because we're done with puzzles, too. We were listening to them while we did puzzles.
Yeah, and we're out of puzzles.
Well, now the world is out of puzzles.
We have at least one on the way.
For like the last 6 weeks, it's been on the way.
I just ordered one.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 on the way.
So we have at least 2 on the way.
All right.
And like, yeah, but it's so hard. Like, I listen to a podcast while I cook for 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. I'm still like 2 months behind on Podcast The Ride, and like, it's crazy. So if you're listening, thank you. Thanks. And also, you're welcome for shorter episodes during this pandemic.
Let's wait till we get to the very end of this episode to say you're welcome.
You're welcome for a potentially shorter episode during the middle of this pandemic.
It's time for the final cut.
Time for the final cut.
So, scene shout out is the segment where we shout out a scene that we really loved in each of the 2 movies. But because there's 8, do you want to just popcorn back and forth and give like 2, 3, 4 scenes total of like,
let's just,
what are some moments that stood out to you in these?
Let's go movie by movie, and if there's something that stood out to you, shout it out.
Okay.
Great.
That is different than what we had decided on before.
Yep, I switched it up.
That's great.
Great.
I love it.
What's our first movie?
Hair Love.
Like all of it?
Oh no, you really liked, and I like this too. The boxing match that the dad has with the hair. He's like literally in a ring. It's like fantastical, and he like does like the punches back and forth, and it has like the actual like boxing ring.
That's
sounds.
really fun.
Yeah,
that is really fun. Yeah. So yes, that.
Kit Bull.
Oh my God! Just the scared cat, like chasing away the scared sad dog. There's like a moment where, like before the cat realizes that the dog is hurt and not its friend.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, I feel so bad. I'm like, oh my God, I hope they become friends. I hope they work it out, and they do, and it's beautiful. Yeah.
That first time the dog comes back out from a fight, and you can see what has happened. That's a powerful moment.
Oh, and I got one more. When the cat realizes that the dog is in terrible shape and goes into its carrier with it, goes into like the doghouse where this cat has been scared of the dog the entire time. And like you see the cat, like you see the fear as it's going into the doghouse to try and take care of this dog. And it's strong.
Pearl.
I mean
we shouted out that.
Yeah. That
nuance. Oh, I like that the bros at the company she was working at were like kind of typical.
I believe the company is called Bro.
Yeah, it's called Bro. They were like typical Pixar humans in terms of their animation. But Pearl is not only a ball of yarn, but she's like, what were you saying? She's like at a slightly slower frame rate.
Yeah.
So she's a little bit more, not pixelated, but she looks more stop motion.
She's a little jumpy, yeah. She's like animated on the 2s or the 4s or something. She's like, bop, 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 bop.
So it's neat to, just a visual thing to further show that she is not one of them. Yeah. She is a different.
Good call. I forgot about that. Nice.
Smash and grab.
Oh man, I really like Smash and grab. I think it's fun. Yeah, my moment is when they can't fist bump or they can't high five. Like, all they want to do is high five and they can't do it.
I mean, it's that Wall-E handshake.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Robots can't touch each other. It gets me.
So sad. Float, I'd say it's that moment, the why can't you be normal?
Yes.
And the kid not understanding.
The kid doesn't understand. All the people around are just staring. Like, they're staring at the kid because he's not normal, and they're staring at Dad because he yelled at his kid. And, like, Dad's never felt worse in his life than in that moment right there.
And you feel for the kid and you feel for the dad. Like, I don't have kids of my own, but I am a teacher, and I know that moment, too, of when I've just gotten frustrated, and I'll just be like, sit down, and then I'll like be like, oh, that was an inappropriate response to this, but like I can't help, right? Like my emotions are high, and I'm at a point, and the kid's at a point, and it's like, oh my God, that's terrible.
Even like what do you call it? Psychonormative, mentally
neurotypical.
God,
I thought you were maybe trying to say the word paranormal or paranorman.
No,
but no.
No, even like neurotypical kids are not great at necessarily understanding when something is serious or when something is important to an adult. Yeah. They're great at pushing buttons. And for a kid that's not neurotypical, like he has even less of a clue, like, I assume, why Dad is upset. He's has even more trouble with that. And like,
there's that communication gap.
There's a communication gap. And like, Dad is doing the best he can, and it did not go well. That in that moment, at least, that was great. It's powerful.
Wind next.
The moment that I knew that it was going to be an abuela story.
The moment you knew that Grandma was not going to make it to the end of the movie,
which was surprisingly early on. I was just like, no, this Grandma's not going to do. She's going to die.
And she pretends for it, right? There's only one seat in the cockpit that he found,
and she pretends he's going to pull her up.
Yeah, And, like, you know that she has no intention of doing that. But, like, the grandson is like, oh, okay, grandma's going to fly behind. Yeah.
Oh, she's... And, like, and the... There's a point where we kind of know that grandma is not going on this trip. Mm-hmm. And she's helping the kid put the rocket together. Mm-hmm. And it goes from him watching her put things together to her watching him put things together.
Taking a step back.
Because she is preparing him for his journey without him knowing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Strong.
Guys, these are all really good.
Yeah, watch these. I guess we should have said that at the top. Yeah, please watch these.
Them. Loop. I love the moment where, so she has this like therapeutic sound on her phone that she plays when she's getting overwhelmed or like sensory overload. And that moment where she's just like, they have a, kind of a big confrontation in the canoe, and she is like hiding in like a reed bunch, right? Like a bunches of reeds or something. And he's the one who finds her phone, or he like downloads the same thing on his phone and starts playing it for her again. Like this thing that has driven him crazy throughout their whole adventure so far. He realizes like, oh, she needs this. Like this is part of her process. And I like when he, takes ownership of that and like it's the turning point where he's like, okay, we need to communicate, as opposed to I'm avoiding communicating with you because I don't want to figure it out.
Right. Or I'm trying to communicate with you my way.
Right.
Because he tries to communicate at the beginning by talking to her, but she's nonverbal. She's not going to talk back.
Right.
So he was like trying his way, and then he's like, okay, we got to find another way. Yeah. The moment for me in this is when she's like hiding under the canoe after she's had like a lot of like anxiety and panic, and like you just see time lapse, and you see kind of from her point of view everything's like a little fuzzy, a little blurry, and she's just like running her hand through like some grass, and like
I'm getting two scenes confused.
Yeah.
She was under,
but it's so interesting to look at the world from that point of view and like recognize people. Like I've had like panic attacks before. I've had like severe anxiety before. I've not dealt with what she's dealing with, but in that moment I was like, oh, they're capturing something really interesting here. So yeah, it was really cool like seeing that through someone else's eyes.
I want to shout out that when the man and the dog switch bodies, you already know the run, like the loping run they give to the man who's like the dog's brain is in the man. It's a Freaky Friday situation.
Yeah, the dog's brain is in the man's body.
Yeah. And this man, this like lumberjacky looking man, he's just like running around lopsided with his tongue out.
His arms are like flopping all over.
And this animation style too is a little bit chunkier by design. Like it's a little bit like, when you take like a picture book and you make a YouTube version of it, kind of that quality. It's just so good. And it like, they know what they have because they show it like several times. Like it's not in the foreground. No. It's in the background, but like.
And every time you see it, I am laughing.
Ooh.
I really like like the scene with the mom, where the guy in the dog body is like the dog he like bit his mom
because
to like hide something from her.
Right.
As a dog he bit her. He didn't bite her as a human. And then he goes and does the dog thing of like whoop whoop whoop, like whimper. And she starts just like talking to the dog like you do. You talk to pets and animals, and like he finds out like one, I think she already knows that I'm gay, and two, like she just wants me to communicate with her. Yeah, she's feeling really bad that she's cut out of my life. Yeah, and he's cut her out because he doesn't think she'll understand. And it's a really like you see in that moment like, oh man, like you get yeah. It was
a lot of really smart choices in this, like weirdy, like and all of these, right? Like they're all a little bit weird.
Yeah.
I mean, even the ones that are kind of grounded and Hair Love and whatnot, there's comedy in it and there's goofiness.
I mean, Hair Love, like you said, has that boxing match, right?
But it's just so many smart choices in all of these.
Yeah. All right. Wow. That was a long bit. What's the next part of our final?
Do you have an MVP from these 8 films? Good luck to both of us.
I've got one. It's the dog in the man body. I could not. Anytime that was on screen and that man was running with his arms flailing and his weird, like, I don't know how to use legs, like, it's a good capture of how a dog would deal with being bipedal. I guess it's chaos, but every time it's on the screen, it makes me laugh really hard, especially in his interactions with Midwestern dad, who says nothing and has no expressions.
Grunts,
just kind of grunts. So that's my MVP.
Yeah. I am going to. So I really want to know more about every one of these directors.
Yeah.
They all have great ideas.
Yeah.
I'm going to give my MVP to Matthew Cherry, the director of Hair Love. He
you and the Academy.
Yeah. One, career switcher, I'm not going to be a professional football player. I'm going to direct movies. Yeah. And I'm going to direct this children's animated short when I don't know how to animate. He doesn't have an animation background. Right.
Yeah.
So, he did this whole Kickstarter campaign based on just an idea for a story from his life and from, raising his daughter.
Oh.
And, he figured out how to direct an animated film. He got animators and raised all this money, and I feel like he's been really strong about then taking this and not only okay, well, thank you for this award, but this is a project for everyone who needs this story. They've made a picture book out of it that's been a bestseller. Yeah. And it looks really cute. It's really well done. And yeah, he's really great about just keeping that visibility up and, I assume encouraging others as well. But so good for Matthew Cherry.
Nice.
What a career.
What a twist.
What a career arc. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crossover is our next segment.
Ooh. I'm going to make you start.
Ooh. Okay. I got to look at some of these. Now, are we just doing 2 or do we get points for crossing over as many as we can?
I mean, yeah, do what you want to do.
All right. I kind of want to. I would need more time than what we have on this podcast,
but I kind of want to mush them all, right?
Well, I kind of want to just come up with one of those Pixar conspiracy theories of all these movies are in the same timeline of the universe. But I'm not gonna do that.
No.
Okay, so Kitten and Pitbull are gonna be friends with the dog from Out. Maybe the man as the dog from Out.
Yeah.
Maybe that version.
That's strong.
But they're gonna be friends, and they're gonna go. I'm gonna keep it small. I'm gonna keep it short.
Ooh.
Those 3 animals are gonna
the animals become friends.
Go on some adventures together.
Nice.
Are there any more animals? I don't think so. Finished.
Okay. So.
It's not a very good one.
So, my crossover is Kitbull, which is what I've decided the cat is named. Kitbull finds Pearl, the ball of yarn, and they become best friends because the kitten plays with the yarn. And then they get adopted by Hair Love.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have a cute, crazy cat that Dad has to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's figured out hair. He's got to have something else to be overwhelmed by.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah,
I'd watch that.
Thanks.
Nice.
Oh.
All right. So okay.
How do you want to do this?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So normally our final cut is taking each of our normally 2 movies and deciding on whether we would re-release them as is, put out a special edition, or put them into the vault. But it seems
these are all great.
That doesn't make sense here.
Yeah.
They're all great, and
Please watch them all.
Yeah, please watch them all. I'm gonna say let's not go through all 8 necessarily.
No.
Is there anything, Dick, that stands out to you first as a short that would pair well with a full-length animated film in a theatrical release situation? Doesn't have to be current.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, are some themes, right? Because now all the Pixar ones are erased from my mind. But I feel like Pixar kind of... It's not like the topic is the same, but there are some similar themes or aesthetics.
I'll tell you
what they pair.
We haven't seen... and I don't know if anyone saw in theater whatever the new one is.
Dad Pants?
Dad Pants.
Onward?
Onward, yeah.
No, a lot of people have seen it. It's on the internet.
No, I'm asking. I don't know if anyone saw it in the theater.
Okay.
So I don't know if there was a short before that or not.
Okay.
But I think Smash and Grab would go great before that. It's kind of a boy movie, and it's kind of a boy short. It's really like a cool adventure. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, like Smash and Grab would be great in front of that, or like. No, before WALL-E, it might be like too samey because it's robot stuff.
That's the interesting thing about this is that I'm like thinking of like, oh, Wind and Coco, or like Wind and Moana, or something.
Or like Loop and Inside Out.
Right.
Which like great, but also
it's too samey.
It's too samey. Yeah, you gotta
pair the
it.
tone, but not the content. So I guess in that sense, maybe like Wind and Inside Out.
Okay.
Because there's kind of like a fantasticalness to them, but Inside Out is more cartoony and Wind is more grounded, at least visually, in reality.
Yeah. I would also take all of them and put them before Cars so that there's some value to watching Cars.
And then just not show Cars.
Yeah.
Oops, we forgot.
Oops. So instead of Cars... It's 2 of the Mater's Tall Tales. So it's all of these and then 2 Mater's Tall Tales.
Oh, Mater's Tall Tales are so fun.
They're fun for like 2.
You can't watch 5 in a row. They're not made for that.
We did watch 5 in a row, but we shouldn't have.
No. I feel like Kit Bull can go in front of something. Yeah. And maybe Kit Bull... So maybe like Kit Bull and Into the Spider-Verse... I know Sony doesn't do, but they have like more of that kind of gritty, kind of not exactly what you expect from animation look, but they're different styles. Yeah, I think that could work.
I'd also put that before Frozen 2 so that you get some value out of watching Frozen 2.
The songs are so good.
The songs are
great. All right. Anything else that stands out at you?
No, I think that's,
Are there any of these shorts or directors that you, like, if you were high up at Pixar...
Am I picking one here, or am I like, you tell me?
Well, I haven't finished this prompt yet.
All right.
But if you're going to say, okay, one of these directors gets to make a full movie, like the next Pixar movie or the next... I mean, everything's kind of owned by everything now. But, like, is there one of these shorts that lends itself to a full length, or... Is there a director that you want to hear, a 90-minute story from?
I don't think...
This will be our final cut.
Final cut. I don't feel like I want to see a 90-minute version of any of these. Smash and Grab is the closest one that, like, lends itself because
feels
there's a big world.
Yeah, it feels the least finished.
Right.
Like, I'm least clear about the beginning, middle, and end of that story.
I'm kind of waiting for the next episode of Smash and Grab.
Yeah, I feel like it skips some sections where I'm like, oh, why are we here now? That happened quickly. Yeah, I can see that.
So if one of them is going to get made bigger, it'd be that. But if we're just giving someone... the freedom to, like, make a movie, man, like... All of these are so interesting and so good and so so confident in their viewpoint that I think they could all do really well. I'm gonna say I want to see Loop, the person. I don't have the names in front of me, but the person who made Loop, because
Erica Miscom.
Okay.
Milsom. I can't read from this.
Erica Milsom. Because I think that, like, Loop had could have been a piece of like a camp movie, of like a coming of age movie, right? Could have been like a piece of something else. And I think the way that the subject matter was explored was really interesting and really engaging. Like I just kept wanting to watch and see what was happening and try and understand all the characters' points of view. I will say that the camp counselor being like, hey, take this autistic girl out on a canoe.
You have no training. Water sports are notoriously very safe, and nothing ever goes wrong.
Have fun, teenager with no training on how to handle the inevitable time where there's an issue.
Right. The irresponsible.
Yeah, but aside from that, like I would like to see, I'd like to see some characters, like, and also just some more characters that aren't neurotypical on the screen, because that was, really interesting to me. Yeah. What about you?
I love the simplicity, and this is something that I really enjoy in animated movies. I love the simplicity of the allegory in Float, where it was like it didn't have to be super clear what in the director's life was like how the kid was different. It was just like, this kid floats.
Yeah,
it's just, we're not going to say anything more about that.
We're not going to say what, like, we're saying we're specifically talking about something else,
right.
But this kid floats. And
I think there's some real elegance in movies that can do that, create like just a very simple kind of one-to-one, like fantastical universe that is telling a story about this very real world thing, and it's just the perfect setting for it, right? Like telling a story about feeling obsolete, about toys. Like, it's just a really elegant kind of one-to-one, and there's other things to explore.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that, and I don't think, like you said, I don't think Float is necessarily a 90-minute movie. Like,
right.
It's structured perfectly for the exact length it is. But I think I really like his, the way his brain works in terms of telling the story like that.
You know what I just realized talking about, like, thinking about Float right now? Like,
and that is Bobby Rubio, is that director.
Bobby Rubio. He tries to control his son and make him normal by giving him, like, weighted clothing.
Yeah.
Which is something that you would do for an autistic child. So it's interesting that, like, even there's like some hints of like extra reality in there.
That is cool too.
I don't know if that's like, intentional or just like he was like, well, this is what you do if a kid's floating, but
right. But it is neat. It opens up other questions. Like, floating is really cool, but the world is not currently built for someone who floats.
The world is not made for.
It is built for someone who walks on the ground. Yeah. And so how do you... oh, that's really cool. I didn't think about that when I was watching that. I like that. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, these are all great.
Yeah.
And there's more Sparkshorts coming.
Yeah.
Too. It's an ongoing project at Pixar. And
which is cool. I guess
right now it says the next one is coming out in 2024.
There's
which seems
no way that's correct.
Like a long time from now, but we'll see.
Like, I don't know. Can Pixar work from home?
Oh, that's true.
I have no idea.
They did those Olaf shorts from home, right? Like, someone either took home a computer or like they were the only ones to go in.
Right.
Because like those Olaf shorts were new since quarantine.
Got it.
I haven't seen any of them.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
They like recorded Josh Gad from quarantine.
Nice.
Like, they're just these little things.
Yeah.
Like Olaf tries to make lemonade or something. Yeah.
An interesting side effect of the coronavirus and quarantine that we were talking about is you can't make a live action movie with social distancing. No. It doesn't really work. But you can make all the animation you want to.
Yeah. Everyone has their voice studio
at home now. Animated movies, animated TV shows. Yeah, and if they don't have a voice studio, you mail them a microphone and tell them to stand in a closet and say the lines.
Yeah, I mean the animation technology is the hardest part. It's not the acting, but but yeah, you can distance. As long as you're allowed back into the building, you can be working in different rooms, and
so it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what the next couple of years brings us.
Yeah, for sure. More animation, the better. We'll have more ideas for episodes.
And hopefully more animation is the only thing that develops in the next several months or years.
No other consequences. Animated movies.
No other terrible things.
Well, until that animation boom happens, though, we are always looking for new animated movies to watch.
That's true.
New pairings.
Ooh.
And so if you, listener, are someone who has an idea like that for us, either one movie or two movies together that you would like to hear us talk about, Dick, how can they reach out to us?
Cellmates Podcast on Twitter, Cellmates Podcast on Facebook, and cellmatespodcast@gmail.com. We also have a website, cellmatespodcast.com. I'll update it at some point. It'll look nice, I promise.
That's another thing we keep saying. Like,
yeah.
Hey guys, this 2020 has gotten worse, and we'll update the website soon.
Maybe if I update the website, it will fix the world.
2020.
Yeah, it'll be like Hades Town, like the song that fixes what's wrong. I'm gonna make some HTML so beautiful.
It's worth a shot.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, for Cellmates Podcast, I'm Kate Phillips.
I'm not. I'm Dick Ward.
Bye.
Bye. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. I want to take a risk and leave that window open. What do you think? Should I shut it? I should shut it.
I mean, that's making more sound. You do what you want.
I'm leaving it open.